there's only one way out of this prison. Win the deadly death race. By 2012, the US economy had crashed hard. Crime went through the roof. The prison system fell apart. Private companies took over and turned inmates into entertainment. It started as a simple fight show. People got bored, so they cranked up the blood. That's how the death race was born. Now, on Terminal Island, prisoners race for their lives on a live broadcast, where every turn can be your last, and the crowd eats it up. The masked racer, Frankenstein, was the crown jewel of the track. Fast, fearless, his name echoed around the world. But his bitter rival, Joseph, wanted him gone. Win or die trying. This was the final lap. Frankenstein was in the lead. Joe opened fire, shredding his navigation system. No oil slicks, no smoke screen, no backup. The car was a ticking bomb, but Frankenstein didn't back off for a second. Right before Joe fired the rocket, he yanked his navigator, Casey, out, seat and all. Then the rocket hit. The blast lit his ride on fire, but Frank still pushed through and crossed the finish line. He won. The car was toast, and he came out of it burned to hell. On the other side of town, another steel mill was about to get shut down. Workers were handed their final checks and pushed out the door. Some of them had been grinding 14 to 15 hours a day and still got paid peanuts. When they stood up for their rights, the cops rolled in. A peaceful protest flipped into chaos. In the middle of it, the police started roughing up Jensen Ames for no reason. They didn't know Jensen had a short fuse. He snapped back and laid one cop out cold. Jensen had a small, happy family, but that night took everything from him. A masked figure broke into his home and brutally murdered his wife. Right after, the attacker blasted pepper spray into Jensen's eyes, blinding him, staged it like a shootout, and vanished. Before Jensen could even process what happened, the cops were already there. He was arrested for his own wife's murder. 6 months in court later, Jensen got hit with a life sentence. They shipped him off to Terminal Island. Jensen got tossed into a cell that already had 3 guys in it. The second they saw fresh blood, they tried to shake him down, thinking they could run him. Big mistake. Jensen dropped all 3 in one clean move and made it clear he wasn't anyone's punching bag. Next morning at breakfast, Frankenstein's head mechanic spotted him. He asked around his crew about Jensen. Turns out Jensen used to be a top-tier racer, broke records in 3 major races. But prison and a pulled license wrecked his whole career. That's when one of the prison goons spit in Jensen's food. They were Pachenko's boys, the baddest crew on the block. The guy started running his mouth, yelling that Jensen killed his own wife and deserved payback. He didn't even get to finish the sentence. Jensen snapped. 4 seconds, 4 guys down. He sent a loud message. He wasn't scared of anyone in this place. The guards rushed in, grabbed Jensen, and dragged him to the warden, Claire Hennessy. She flipped through his file and clocked it right away. This guy wasn't just muscle. He was a damn good driver. Hennessy laid the deal out clean. Race for them in the death race and earn your shot at freedom. One catch, you wear Frankenstein's mask. The whole world was waiting for Frankenstein's comeback, even though the real Frank had died in his last run. Hennessy needed the legend alive, needed the ratings. The rules were simple. Win 5 races, walk free. Frankenstein already had 4 wins on the board. Jensen just needed 1 more, 1 last run, and he gets back to his kid. He took the deal. Then they introduced him to his new crew, coach, gunner, lists, his pit team, all in, all ready to bleed for his win next week. Every team had their own locked-down garage, where they turned their cars into straight-up killing machines. Jensen wasn't facing rookies. He was lining up against monsters. On this track, nobody hesitates to take a life. 14K, Hector, and Pachenko had already stacked bodies. 7, 12, and 18 drivers dead between them. This 3-day race was going to be hell. Coach kept it real. Day 1, just survive. Stay breathing. Day 3 is the money day. First one to hit every checkpoint and cross that finish line takes it all. Joe got word that Frankenstein was coming back, and it lit him up. He went straight at Frankenstein's coach, throwing threats. Said Frank slipped through his hands last time, but this time, he wasn't walking away. Meanwhile, a new batch of inmates got brought in for work detail. Every one of them wore the same kind of bracelet Jensen had seen on his wife's killer. That's when it hit him. One of these guys might be the one who took her from him. Race day finally came. They suited Jensen up in Frankenstein's gear. The mask, the jacket, the whole legend. Just the name alone brought the ratings back from the dead. The crowd was losing it. Cars rolled out and lined up on the track. That's when Coach leaned in and kept it simple. Don't talk to anyone. Frank never did. That silence? That's what made him a myth. Coach blacked out the car's windows so Jensen could race without the mask, and nobody would clock him. Navigator Casey knew the full truth. She was there when Frank flatlined in the hospital. On this track, Frank had already wiped out 20 drivers. Now Jensen and Casey had to lock in that same kind of chemistry, because in this death run, one slip meant they were both done. The broadcast went live, $99 a stream. Rolling out were 4-time champ Frankenstein, 3-time winner Machine Gun Joe, and Slovo Pachenko. Somewhere in the middle of it all, Jensen learned why Casey was locked up. Her husband was a cop who kept breaking her down. One night, she snapped, killed him, and this race became her cage. The race kicked off, 3 laps. Hennessy planned to arm the track in lap 2, giving the edge to whoever was out front. Jensen mashed the throttle and grabbed first place. Then the hits came from both sides, hard. His ranks slipped. Joe started ramming him from behind. Casey knew the shortcuts. She called them out. Jensen cut through and climbed back to number 1. Fired up, Jensen went after Joe, but Coach barked at him to back off. Joe would straight up crush him. As lap 1 ended, Hennessy flipped the switch. Swords and shields went live. Drive over the sword, your guns light up. Hit the shield, you get oil and smoke for cover. To make it deadlier, they unleashed the death trap. One wrong move, and you're done. Hector played it smart and baited a racer straight into it. One more kill on his board. Meanwhile, Joe lit up his guns and sprayed Hector with a hail of bullets. Hector hit the oil slick, saved himself, and Joe's car spun out, skidding to a dead stop. But Hector's win didn't last long. 14K clapped back hard. He blew Hector's tires, then launched a rocket. The crash was brutal, metal flying everywhere. Somehow, Hector crawled out, yelling that nobody could kill him. The next second, Joe ran him straight over. Day 1 numbers went through the roof. Over 450 million eyes glued to the stream. The track was pure chaos. Now Jensen was getting lit up. He aimed for the sword to fire back, but the system jammed. Casey risked her life, leaning out the window to fix the gun. That's when a rival opened fire on her, and from behind, Joe came charging in like a wrecking ball. By some miracle, not a single round touched Casey. She powered the machine gun back online. They tried to pop the shield for cover, but luck wasn't on their side. No oil, no smoke, and the armor was about to give out. That's when Jensen got slick. He cracked open the fuel tank. Gas sprayed all over the car, tailing them. Casey flicked the lighter. Boom, they barely escaped the blast. Then Pachenko's ride pulled up alongside. He looked Jensen dead in the eye and flashed that same shootout gesture, the exact move the masked killer used. Jensen froze for a split second. That's all it took. His car got slammed and dropped to the very back of the pack. 3 drivers were already dead today. Nobody knew who was next. Frank's car was wrecked, barely holding together. The team had just 14 hours to fix it before the next run. When the mechanics dug in, their stomachs dropped. The oil line wasn't broken. It had been sabotaged. That meant one thing. There was a rat, either inside their own crew or someone high up in the prison who didn't want Frank winning this race. The truth hit Jensen like a freight train. His blood boiled. Now he saw it. This was all a setup. His wife wasn't killed by chance. She was taken out so he'd get framed, locked up, and turned into Hennessy's cash cow, her Frankenstein. Fueled by rage, Jensen straight up refused to race the next day. But Hennessy was a cold player. She went for his weakest spot, his little girl. She made it clear, if he didn't get back on the track, his daughter would grow up calling some stranger Dad. She knew exactly where the man keeping his kid was. But Jensen would only get that address if he crossed the finish line as the winner. That was the hook. And it worked. For his daughter, Jensen agreed to dive back into the death game. He finally told Coach everything. How Hennessy had his wife killed just to mold him into Frankenstein. Coach didn't flinch. He had Jensen's back, all the way. That same night, Jensen went hunting. Straight into Pachenko's turf, running on pure revenge. But it flipped on him. Pachenko and his crew jumped him, slapped him in cuffs, and started beating him down. Jensen was helpless, until one of his loyal guys came out of nowhere and stabbed Pachenko in the back with a pen. That was all Jensen needed. He snapped, wiped the floor with them. Staring death in the face, Pachenko broke and spilled everything. It was Hennessy's guard, Ulrich, who drove him to Jensen's place the night of the murder. They'd strapped a GPS bracelet on him to keep tabs. Before Jensen could finish Pachenko, Ulrich stormed in and dropped them both with a stun gun. Next day, the race was back on. But Jensen played it different. Instead of flooring it, he took the car straight into the... He'd figured it out. Casey had a hand in the old Frankenstein's death. He grabbed the emergency lever on the fuel system and laid it down cold. Tell the truth, or you burn the same way that fuel line did. Casey cracked. Hennessy never wanted Frankenstein to win that 5th race and walk free. She'd had Casey sabotage Frank's defense system. Frank refused to lose, and it got him killed. Now they were pulling the same move on Jensen. The payoff? Casey's freedom. Papers already signed. Her one job: make damn sure Jensen never crossed that finish line. The truth flipped a switch in Jensen. The beast woke up. He mashed the gas and his car shot after Pachenko like a bullet. Both of them lit up their weapons at the same time. Lead flew everywhere, but Pachenko's ride was built like a tank. Those shots barely scratched it. Jensen's car, though, was getting torn to hell. Then Casey made the clutch move. She dumped a smoke screen right on cue. Pachenko lost control, slammed hard, and came out wrecked. Jensen wasn't in a mercy mood. He did the unthinkable. Dropped out of the race. Threw the car in reverse. Frank stepped out of the car and ended Pachenko right there. That's when Warden Hennessy knew Jensen was no longer her puppet. To take back control and crank the chaos, she unleashed her deadliest card yet, the Dreadnought. The truck rolled in and turned the track into a war zone. In seconds, it flattened 2 racers. Even slick 14K couldn't dodge that steel monster. Now it was down to Joe and Frank. That death rig wasn't something you beat solo, so Jensen buried the beef and teamed up with Joe. They boxed the truck in from both sides, played it tight, and the moment they saw an opening, they dragged it straight into the death head. Boom. One massive blast, and the giant went up in smoke. Watching her biggest weapon get turned into scrap, Hennessy lost it. By the end of the second leg, only 2 hunters were left on the track, Joe and Frank. Tomorrow was set to be the final, blood-soaked showdown. But now, Hennessy was scared of Jensen. She knew he was out of her control. So she pulled a dirty move. She rounded up all the inmates in the yard, put on a fake hype show about the race. While everyone was distracted, her loyal enforcer Ulrich slipped under Jensen's car and planted a remote bomb. Jensen already knew the truth. Hennessy was never going to let anyone win that 5th race. Jensen laid it all out for Joe. The truth. The setup. Together, they cooked up a quiet breakout plan. Right before the race, they flashed Jensen his official release papers. Same deal. One last run. The final race kicked off, but this time, it wasn't a competition. It was a full-blown revolt. Joe fired his rocket launcher and blew a hole straight through the prison's outer wall. Both cars punched it, tearing toward freedom. Hennessy slammed the switch, killed their weapons, then hit the remote for the bomb. Nothing. Coach had already found it. Disarmed it. Furious, Hennessy sent in the gunship choppers. After the bridge, Jensen and Joe split up. Hennessy went all in on chasing Frankenstein. She boxed him in, caught him. They ripped off the mask. It wasn't Jensen. He and Joe had already ghosted. Hennessy was celebrating when a gift showed up. She opened the package. Her face dropped. Inside was the same bomb Coach had pulled from Jensen's car. Click, boom. Hennessy was done. 6 months later, a quiet spot. Casey showed up to meet Joe and Jensen. She was free too. Hennessy had already signed her release papers. Jensen had his daughter back. The blood game was over. They were finally rolling into a new life.